NASCAR wasn't happy recently when the National Motorsports Appeals Panel changed its penalty on the 4 Hendrick Motorsports cars for modifying single-source supplier parts and restored all the points to the teams. After HMS driver Kyle Larson won at Richmond, the numbers 24 and 48 were returned to the NASCAR R&D Center for a random inspection. Many openly joked that it wasn't random. Alex Bowman and William Byron weren't in joking moods at Bristol this past weekend after they received a second round of penalties in less than a month for violations found. Interestingly, neither was the normally quiet Larson, who was not happy about two completely different things. NASCAR has made it clear since the debut of the next-gen car in 2022 that it wasn't going to tolerate any teams altering vendor-supplied parts to keep everything consistent among the cars and maintain a level playing field. Numerous teams found out the hard way last year, including Brad Keselowski, Michael McDowell, and Kevin Harvick. Each received massive penalties, including fines, crew chief suspensions, and the loss of driver and owner points. The Harvick penalty was the most interesting because he was one of the most outspoken drivers last year, critical of NASCAR and its slow response to drivers' concerns about safety issues in the new car, with Kurt Busch and Alex Bowman suffering concussions. In September, Harvick was particularly vocal, calling out the sanctioning body multiple times, including the more notable crappy parts remark after Darlington. In October, on the heels of his comments, the Stewart-Haas racing car made a random trip to the R&D Center after Talladega. Several days later, NASCAR announced the number 4 team's penalty. Minutes after the penalty announcement, the driver and his crew chief both took to Twitter mocking the random nature of NASCAR's selection process. "Seems strange," Harvick tweeted, while Rodney Childers wrote "shocker" in response to NASCAR's tweet about the penalty. One group, some view as conspiracy theorists, suggested NASCAR was targeting the Stewart-Haas team for the driver's harsh criticism of the sanctioning body, while another quickly dismissed those charges by using the commonly heard response that all cars are randomly selected. But are they? Depends on who you ask. One reported random way was that NASCAR chooses 2 finishing positions before a race, like 7th and 12th, and those 2 cars go back to the R&D Center. Others say random is only in the fact that no one knows who is going to be selected, but it's at NASCAR's discretion on who it chooses. This past week, the latter was confirmed in a tweet by Fox's Bob Pockrass. Been obvious talk about cars taken after a race. NASCAR confirmed to me this week that it is totally series director discretion on what vehicles to take after the race. I'm not sure when random procedure ended. With that known, then it's pretty obvious what happened after last week's race at Richmond when the sanctioning body selected the numbers 24 and 48 to go back to the R&D Center for teardown and a more thorough inspection. This came just over a week after the National Motorsports Appeals Panel had dramatically reduced NASCAR's previous penalty on Hendrick, upholding the financial portion and crew chief suspension while restoring all the points. NASCAR wasn't happy. Officials then discovered modifications to the greenhouse or center section of the 2 HMS cars and fined the team $75,000, suspended the interim crew chiefs 2 races, and docked each driver 60 points and 5 playoff points. This past weekend at Bristol, William Byron addressed the latest rounds of penalties and didn't try to hide his frustration.
Not happy. I'm not happy about it, so is what it is.
Penalties, appeals, and everything else.
Yeah, I don't have anything good to say.
His HMS teammate Alex Bowman, who's known for his dry wit, didn't disappoint when asked about the inspection and subsequent penalty.
The penalty was overturned the week before.
That's a random inspection, man. It's completely random, so just chances got us there.
It's understandable that Bowman and Byron aren't happy, but Kyle Larson unhappily joined in on the frustration fest this weekend at Bristol, voicing his displeasure on a couple of completely different topics, starting first with racing on the dirt, which he's been quite outspoken about in the past. This year was no different.
No, I mean, I think we all really enjoy the concrete surface here at Bristol, so I think the crowd's typically bigger, it seems like at this point now, so for the concrete stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's up to the series and the promoters, but I would love to get back to running 2 races on the concrete here.
If we changed it to a different dirt track, which one would you want to go to?
None.
Why is that?
Because we don't need to be racing on dirt.
That was before Sunday's race. After it, the 2021 champion was just as spicy when talking about a brewing conflict with Ryan Preece.
Comments after COTA, so I'm sure he's standing his ground, I guess, right now.
Were you surprised?
I mean, a little bit surprised just because it'd been so long, and like I said, it wasn't my fault why he was back there. You know, I think something happened to him off of 2 earlier, and he ran in the back of somebody and spun out. And then, like I said, it'd been probably an hour and a half. I would have to guess since then. So, figured we could just be grown-ups and get the over it, but I guess not.
Next week's race is at Martinsville, another short track. Could be fun watching the 41 and 5 when they get around each other. But if we're being honest, worrying about Sunday is getting way too far ahead of ourselves. There's still this week's penalty report and finding out just who got nabbed by the NASCAR police. Oh wait, there won't be any penalties for cars taken back to the R&D Center this week. No cars were randomly selected after Bristol. That's just how random it is.